Both A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill are on pace for 2,000 plus receiving yards, right?
These are two guys that showed elite, capital E, elite traits before breaking out.
A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, if you're starting a franchise, who you going with?
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
I want to talk about A.J. Brown. It's an interesting debate right now, right? Because both A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill are on pace for 2,000 plus receiving yards. It's never happened in the NFL. And quite frankly, I think we would be talking about A.J. Brown a lot more if it wasn't for the brilliance of Tyreek Hill. But it's an interesting, kind of thought experiment that I've seen going on online. And of course, got to ask our wide receiver guy, Matt Harmon here. A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, if you're starting a franchise, who you going with?
Oh, man. That's a really, really, really difficult question. Not for nothing, too. Like, if we're saying start a franchise, Tyreek Hill's a little bit older, right? He's 29 years old. A.J. Brown is 26 years old. He just turned 26, I think, over the summer, if I remember correctly. So if we're talking about start a franchise, that theoretically should come into play. If I'm starting a team that I'm going to build around for the next few years. Now, yeah, I think if I'm drafting a team to play on Sunday, I think I'm probably not caring as much about that age, and then I'm just comparing skill set. Man, this is really difficult because I think both these guys are elite level players. Right. I said that going into the season, they were in my elite tier of real life NFL receivers. And by the way, I think both of these guys, not to toot reception perception's horn, but kind of to toot reception perception's horn. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's what I do, right? I should at least tell you when things go well. Right. These are two guys that showed elite, capital E, elite traits before breaking out, right? The big one is obviously Stephon Diggs that, he showed elite level RP metrics before getting to Buffalo, where he then became established as an elite player based on the stats and everything like that. But A.J. Brown was that guy in Tennessee too, right? He was up there. If you just look at his first few seasons, in 2020, 79% success rate versus man, 81.6 against press. That's elite level stuff. That was his second season. Tyreek Hill, right? I always talk about his rookie season. Was he a gadget player? But he had an 80% success rate versus press in his rookie season. These were elite level markers before it was kind of obvious. And I think obviously these guys have just stayed in that elite tier since then. I think if I'm picking one again to play a game on Sunday, I think I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill on that one, just because I truly think he changes the math. We have quite literally seen Tyreek Hill split double teams 2 weeks in a row now. And double coverage is kind of a little more rare than people think. We think oh yeah, they're just doubling the number one receiver on every play. No, not even close. That doesn't really happen. But Hill can beat double teams really like nobody else can. And, just generally, again, he's such a great route runner. He's so great in contested situations, and he's just got speed for days in the yak department that I think he is probably the most valuable maybe the most valuable player non-quarterback to his individual offense. I think it probably would be between him and McCaffrey. And I think A.J. Brown's probably up there, but I think there's a touch more of what Tyreek brings to the table that's slightly different.
What's really interesting about what you saw in terms of the RP metrics for both of these guys too, I feel like regardless of how you felt about them as players, I think the general consensus was, first of all, early in their careers, you talk about Tyreek Hill, is he a gadget guy? And the RP metrics said absolutely not. To a lesser degree, I think A.J. Brown also was fighting that a little bit in Tennessee. Not gadget player, but just raw athlete player. And when you say raw athlete, you're also indicating he's not that great of a technician. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think reception perception showed, no, early on, no, this guy's a very technically sound player as well. The idea that Tyreek Hill is quote unquote just fast is at this point in his career, it's outrageous. Come on, guys. Like, what are we doing out here? You know, like we've seen a lot of guys that are freaking fast that are not good wide receivers. Okay. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And he's always been a way better route runner, I think, than people give him credit for. You know, he's cleared 75% success rate versus man in every season since 2018. And it wasn't like he was that far off in his first 2 seasons either. So he's been up there with the big boys in terms of his ability to beat man coverage. I mean, he's been over 80% success rate versus press in all but 1 season in the NFL, which is nutso stuff. Like those are, again, that's when you are jumping into the elite tier, when you are in reception perception and you're over 75% success rate versus man, and you're over 80% success rate versus press. And oh, by the way, he's also cleared 80% success rate versus zone in all but 1 season in the NFL. I mean, that is truly, these are the elite tier of receivers. Tyreek Hill belongs in that group. You don't need me to tell you that. The way that Miami and this offense has shined a light on his skills as an in-breaking route runner, the way he working over the middle, stuff like that really has been sort of it's beyond the fact that like, oh wow, he's not just productive but like stupid productive with a quarterback in Tua that, well, like I think Tua is a really good player. I think he's a really good quarterback, but he's not Patrick Mahomes, right? It was just like, okay, can he still be productive with Tua? I mean, not only has he been productive with Tua, he's made the entire offense go, you know, like, and he's done it in different ways. I think, like I said on the show last week, that you know, he's great in contested situations too. He's just like a pretty perfect wide receiver, in my opinion. And I mean, shoot, I'd probably say the same thing about AJ Brown, that he's a near perfect wide receiver. To your point, like this is one of those questions where I hate giving an answer because it's like, I don't want to shade the other guy. So allow me to say some nice things about AJ Brown here. You're so right that in Tennessee, he was almost typecasted as like a yak merchant. And even in college, like Scott Pianowski, who I work with at Yahoo, posted today like a scouting report of him being compared to like Juju Smith-Schuster because he played out of the slot in college. Like he's a little bit better than Juju Smith-Schuster, AJ Brown. You know, and again, that ability to beat man and press coverage which is what always to me had him cracking and knocking on the door of being a top 10 elite number 1 wideout in the NFL. And he's been sort of, that's been exposed more and more in Philly than it was in Tennessee, but he was this guy with the Titans. It was just a different offense and different quality quarterback level as well.
Final question on this whole, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown thing. By the way, I just want to make it clear, I'm going with Tyreek Hill. No shade against AJ Brown. But Tyreek Hill, just the way that he warps opposing defenses, you're not finding that. Okay? AJ Brown, what he's doing, it's incredible. I think we've seen it before from other great wide receivers. I don't think we've ever seen what we're seeing with Tyreek Hill. The fact that he's just completely destroying coverages with what he's doing, both his separation at the line of scrimmage and the separation at the stem of his routes, in combination with his speed, in combination with contested catch, in combination with his touchdown making ability. I don't think we've seen that in the NFL, maybe not since Randy Moss. Not since Randy Moss. Let me just throw a couple of stats here out for you. Tyreek Hill, he's already over 1,000. We already know that. 10-14 right now in terms of receiving yards. 939 for A.J. Brown. So he, too, is on pace right now for 2,000-plus receiving yards. Puka Nacua is number 3 at 795. Stephon Diggs is at 748. DJ Moore is at 691. I mean, 691 compared to 1,014. That is, I mean, come on, bro. Like, what is happening? That's the difference between 1 and 5 in the NFL. Dang, man. He's going nuts. He's going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, he truly is doing like unbelievable stuff right now.